screen, on the screen you can see that same program of getting two sentences from the user, one after the other, and then printing those two sentences, but without the use of any F-flush. If you remember, here I have told enter the first sentence, 0 followed by enter to end. I scan the whole thing. If AI is 0, I break out. Then again I tell the user to enter the second sentence, 0 followed by enter to end. I scan the whole sentence. Then if it is 0, then I break out. So it's the same old program. And after that I print the first sentence. For I equal to 0, AI not equal to 0, I keep on printing. And I also print the second sentence, Bi not equal to 0, I keep on printing. See over here, if you don't use F-flush, then you remember what happens. What happens is, suppose in the first sentence you write hello world 0, followed by suddenly you put some xxxx and then press the enter. After pressing the enter, it will definitely break out, and it will also start scanning and get a 0 and also break out. See what happens. It scans because you had pressed the enter. It scans H, it scans E, it scans L, and so on. The entire hello world is scanned. Once it finds 0, it breaks out. So the xxxx was not scanned, but the problem is, as I told you, xxxx is there in the buffer. Now over here, if I write how are you, then what will happen is, it will followed by a 0 and enter. Then it will now print the first sentence and the second sentence. Do you know what the first sentence will be? The first sentence will be hello world, and the second sentence when it starts scanning, it will get xxxx in the buffer. So it will first scan that xxxx, then it will scan the enter. That enter that was pressed after xxxx, that is also there in the buffer. Then it will scan the how are you question mark, then it will get 0, then it will stop. So see what will happen. The first sentence is hello world, the second sentence is that xxxx followed by how are you. That xxxx has been scanned. Also the enter you find after xxxx, the enter you pressed, that is also scanned. The other problem of this is, if you avoid writing anything after the 0, then also there is some problem without the flush. If you remember, hello world with a 0, it breaks out. Now if I write how are you over here, followed by a 0, then see what will happen. It will say first sentence is hello world, but the second sentence is enter, a line of enter, then how are you. See, the first sentence is hello world, the second sentence is firstly an enter, then how are you, where from this enter comes. You remember after typing hello world 0, then the enter, when you press that enter, what happened was that enter was there in the buffer, but it did not scan that enter because with 0 you broke out of the loop. This is what happened. With this 0 it broke out of the loop. But after the hello world 0 you press that enter, so that enter was there in the buffer. Now when it started scanning the second time, it firstly scanned the enter, then the how are you. Now what was the solution to it? A simple solution to it was writing, I told you, after any scan, make a habit of writing F-flush stdin. That is, you flush out that whatever is there in the buffer. You flush out the standard buffer. So here also after the scanning, here also you have scanned. So after the scanning, it is always good to flush out the standard input buffer. So flush stdin. That is what you write. So that is the solution. Now another thing that I can tell you all through this while, that see, always typing this 0 at the end of a sentence is a bit irritating. You are always telling the user to end with a 0. What if I don't need to end with a 0? Is not it better that I avoid telling the user enter a 0 at the end? Then what? An enter itself should be enough. How can that be done? Very simple. If instead of 0, if I scan for an enter key, then I break out, then what? I scan the enter key. Over here I keep on scanning. I scan. When I find the enter key, I break out. I know, like 0, enter, 0 also has got an ASCII code. Like that enter has got an ASCII code of 10. So why not instead of 0, I scan for 10. That is, if I get an enter, I break out. What I mean to say is, this 0 followed by enter to end to be avoided, just to be written enter the first sentence, and expected at the end of the first sentence user will automatically enter the or press the enter key. Is not it so? In that case, I scan all the characters one by one. When I find the enter key, I break out. I break out with the enter key. Now it has got an advantage. See, over here, suppose I don't keep this F flush. I see the enter key and break out. See, over here, the F flush, it is always a good habit to keep the F flush. But if you are scanning for the enter key, then even without F flush it will work. Why? Because suppose I am pressing hello world, I am printing hello world. See what I do. I type hello world. When I type this hello world, after that I press the enter without the 0. As soon as I press the enter, it starts scanning. So it scans means it scans H from the buffer, H, then E, then L, then O, then W, then space, sorry, then W, then O, then R, then L, then D, then it finds an enter. As soon as it finds an enter, see if AI is equal to 10, break out, it breaks out. But remember, the enter has also been scanned. So that enter is no more there in the buffer. You have already scanned that enter. That enter is no more there in the buffer. You have scanned that enter. That basically means that the enter that you have scanned in is no more there in the buffer, means that next time when you scan, there is no chance of finding any extra enter key or any extra key for that reason. Even if I write hello world, then XXXX in the same line, then automatically it means it's the same sentence that you want to type in. If you don't want to type in, make XXXX a part of this sentence, then why will you type this XXXX at all? So you're typing this XXXX means it will also scan this XXXX, because the 0 is not there, enter is not there, I'm not scanning for the 0 at all. I'm only scanning for the enter. So if you type like this, it will scan hello, space, world, space, XXXX, then it finds the enter, it breaks out. But the enter has been scanned, enter is no more there in the buffer. So even without F flush, this should work. Like over here also, I will write enter the second sentence, no need of a 0. And over here, I will write if bi is equal to not 0, I will not write 0, but bi is equal to 10. Then I will break out. You understand this? So here also, the F flush can be avoided because you are scanning till you find the enter. There is no chance of anything extra to be there in the buffer. However, it is always a good habit to write this. But you may avoid, because this enter, you are waiting for the enter. So anything extra to be there in the buffer is not there. The chance is not there. Everything before the enter will be scanned in by this scan itself. I think you understand. Now over here, you can now check for the 10, because the 10 or the enter is there at the end. That enter you had also scanned, you remember? That enter also you scanned within an AI. So last AI is 10, the last BI is 10, because you have scanned that and only found that and broke out. So definitely that AI until it is 10 you print, or BI until it is 10 you print. See, this program will work absolutely fine. What I meant to say is, over here if you write hello world, see I have not used that flush stdin, but I write hello world followed by how are you. Had I used the 0, then the enter would not have been scanned. Then what would have happened is that enter would have been scanned in the second sentence. But over here there is no question, because the enter has been scanned in the first sentence itself and it found the enter and then it broke out. So let me now press the enter, see what will happen. First sentence is hello world, second sentence is how are you. How are you without any enter, because enter is there, part of the first sentence. I don't print it. Because while printing I have checked, while it is not equal to 10 you print. So that enter I have not printed. Do you understand this? Once more, say hello. As I was saying, if you write hello world XXXX, then enter, See, till enter it scanned. So hello world xxxx, everything has been a part of your first sentence. Now if you write how are you, what will happen? Hello world xxxx is your first sentence, how are you is your second sentence. If you don't want to make it a part of it, then why did you write it at all? Definitely it will be a part of the first sentence. Until and unless you press enter, everything becomes a part of your sentence. So I think this program which I wanted to, this part which I wanted to tell you is quite understandable. So from now onwards, if you write programs, don't scan for a 0, try to scan for a enter and accordingly do. Now I will take a new program over here. What is that? The program that I will take over is word count. Very simple. Count the number of words in an inputted sentence. Count the number of words in an inputted sentence. A sentence that has been inputted, you have to find the number of words that are present within there. How to find that? It is also can be written in a simple way, but remember I will use this same logic of enter the first sentence and I will scan only for the enter. So over here 2 character arrays are not needed. One array itself should be enough. See over here, I should not need 2 arrays, one array itself should be enough because I only need to count the number of words in that. So how to count the number of words? This part is not needed at all. So let me get rid of this. You may keep this F flush, you may not keep this F flush. Now I don't want to print this first sentence and second sentence, I need to count the number of words. I keep this because the for loop will be needed after all. So see, now the counting begins. How to count? The logic can be somewhat like this. Try to understand the logic. What is the logic that I would write over here? For I equal to 0, ai not equal to 10, I plus plus. I will go through the entire sentence until you find the enter. So after going through this entire sentence, while going through this entire sentence, what will you do? You will try to find a space, or you will try to find maybe an enter, that is you will try to find a 10 or a 32. If you find a space or a enter, then you know after this any sentence or any word that begins with a letter, that is between A to Z or capital A to capital Z or 0 or any symbol, anything which is not an enter or a space should be treated as a new word. What I mean to say is I write hello followed by world. Over here, after the hello, there is a space. I should start with one word. After that, if I find a space or maybe an enter, because the word can also be in the next line, still you have to count world as a new word. So if you find a space, after that, any character that you find, any character, be it W, be it X, be it Y, be it 0, be it 3, be it anything, be it any symbol, you should be treating it as the start of a new word. So as soon as you find a new letter, after the space, you should start treating it as a new word. Is not it so? There may be as many spaces as you like. Those should not be counted. As long as there is space, that should not be counted. But if there is a new character starting or new letter starting after the space or the enter, you should treat it as a new word. So what to do? What I will do is, I will firstly check that if the character that I scan, that I find right now, is it a 10 or the character that I scan right now, is it a 32? Remember, scanning 10 is enter, 32 is space. So I am checking if AI is equal to 10 or AI is equal to 32. I am checking that the character that I get right now Is it a space or a enter? What I do then is, new word is a variable that I use, or maybe a word start. Call it word start. Starting of a word, I take a variable like that, which I make 1. Because if it is space or a enter, then immediately after this, if I get a new character which is not a space or a enter, then definitely that is the start of a new word. Please understand what I mean to say. Word start equal to 1 indicates start of a new word. If I get a space or if I get a enter, then this word start is 1, meant you get a letter after this, it will mean that a new word is being started. Else, if it is not 10 or 32, then what you should do? You should make it 0. Please understand this. You should make it 0. If it is not 10 or 32, you should make it a 0. But it is for the next word. So prior to this, something should be checked. That is, you have made it 1 or 0, indicating that when you go back and get the next character, I get the next character, this is blank space or enter, okay. But when you go back to the start of for loop and can get the next character, if that next character is a letter, then only you should count the start of a new word. So here what do I check? I check if word start is 1, that is, if it indicates that the character prior to this was a blank space or a enter. See, the character prior to this, because here I will initialize and go to the start. So word start is 1 means character prior to this was a enter or a space. So if the character prior to this is a enter or a space, then I should check if it is not, if it itself also is not a blank space or a enter. Because remember, there may be many blank space one after the other, like this, like over here. So the previous one was a blank space. 32 does not mean this cannot be 32. This can also be a 32. If this is 32, then it is also a blank space. Prior one was a blank space. This is also a blank space. And if this is a blank space, you should not count a new word. If it is not a blank space, if word start is 1 and AI is not a blank space or a enter, AI is not equal to 10 and AI is not equal to 32, it is not a blank space, it is not a enter. Then what you do? Then only you say that the count of number of words should increase. That is a new variable called word count. Previous one was word start. This is word count. Word count should increment, and with what should word count be initialized? It should be initialized with 0. You start with word count equal to 0. But one thing you remember, first time when you enter the loop, the first time it should be starting of a word. So word start should also be initialized with 1, indicating that the next character that you find, next character is the first character that you find, should be the start of a word. So if it is not a space or a enter, remember I can also start with some space. So initially word start is 1, indicating that in the first thing that you find should be the start of a word. So if word start is 1, so initially word start will be 1, this will be true. But if it does not start with a enter or a space, then increment the word count and make it 1. You get it? So this is the logic which will work. At the end of this for loop, you need to do one simple thing, that is print the word count and get the number of words in this sentence. Printf, the number of words is what? Percent D. What is this percent D? Word count. This is word count. I think you understand. The number of words is percent D. This is word count. You need a declaration of this word start and word count, and your program should be done then. So let me declare character n int I. You need a word start variable and you need a word count variable to count the number of words. I think you understand this logic. Initially word start is 1 because the sentence should start with some word or the other. So initially if word start is 1, also AI not equal to 10 and AI not equal to 32, this is not a blank space or a enter, word count should increment. And if this is an enter or a space, word start should be 1, indicating that a next can be the start of a word, provided it is not a blank space. One small thing before running it is this one. I just used assignment. This must be checking for the equality operator. So word start, if it is 1, so it must be double equal to. Otherwise this program is fine. So I should now run it. Okay, so enter it's not first sentence, enter the sentence it should have been. Anyway, hello world. Only with an enter it should work because I checked for 10, the number of words is 2. You can run it again. Say you write hello world, how are you? Sorry, how are you? With a question mark. Word number of words is 5. One thing, suppose in between you put some extra spaces. Hello world. Though I did a lot of check for enter, pressing an enter is not possible. Pressing an enter means it will say that it has ended. So pressing an enter is not possible. So I write like this, hello world, how are you? Will it work? Yes, 5. Those spaces are all neglected. You go for like this, hello world with a comma, how are you? Should it work? Yes, it should show 5. Yes, it is 5. Then suppose you say hello world, maybe a space between the comma followed by how are you. What will it show? It will show 6. Comma is treated as a word over here because you have left spaces in between. That's what also happens in WinWord. In your Microsoft Word, there also the same thing happens. If you put a space in between the comma, it will take it as a separate word. So you take this again, say with a question mark, hello world, then a comma, then how. So it's a separate word again. Same thing, you put few spaces, then the question mark, then what? 7 words this time. Comma is a word, question mark is a word. You have left spaces. So that is the same thing that happens. Now over here, if you press enter, then it will stop. There is no point putting enter. If you write like this, hello world, comma, then enter, it will stop. It will show the answer over there. So enter cannot be there in the sentence. Though you checked for that, you kept a track for checking enter, but enter cannot be there. Say suppose you change the program and look for 0. You tell the user to end with a 0 over here. If you tell the user to end with a 0, then this checking of 10 and 32, also 10 alongside 32 would have made sense. However, over here checking for the 10 is not needed at all because with 10 you are breaking out of the program. Okay, but however this program should run fine. One thing I would like to show you, that same thing happens in C also. If you just keep it like this, say I go out of C right at the moment. I go out of C and what I do is I open Word over here, say a new file, I open file, then new blank document. Say over here hello world. You see at the bottom over here 2 words, hello W. So 2 words, hello world, 2 words, comma, how are you? There is no space between world and comma. So 3 words, how are you? 5 words. Isn't that so? You just put a gap in between this comma, 6 words. Put a gap in between this question mark, 7 words. Put as many gaps as you like, still 7 words. So that is the logic I used in the program also. So I think you understand this. this program. So we can take a bit of break over here and we can come back. When we come back, I will show you what is the concept of strings. I told you strings is character array, but with slight differences. I will show you what is strings when we come back. Thank you so much. Let's take a bit of break.